Clostridium botulinum. Ooh. Let's talk about it. Welcome to Back to Basics, Home Canning 101 with Homestead Heart. Now you all, let's go ahead and talk about this, right? I'm not going to make light of the subject at all because this is a very real concern for so many people. Clostridium botulinum, what is that in the first place? What is that? Basically, we're talking about a toxin that produces botulism. Simply said, okay? Now, here's the thing about that though. The bacteria itself is quite common actually. And if you are a person who gardens or plants flowers or anything like that, chances are you come in contact with it on a regular basis. But coming in even actually in some of your water sources, but you coming in contact with it like that is not really a problem. The problem comes when you give it the right conditions to become a problem. And what conditions are we talking about here for botulism to become a problem? There are few things here that botulism actually loves. Moisture, room temperature storage, low oxygen, and low acid foods. Those things coming together could create a recipe for disaster. But this is where proper home canning techniques come into play, okay? So, should we have a healthy concern for botulism? Yes. Should we allow that to prevent us from home canning? No. Later on in this series, we're going to talk more about low acid foods and high acid foods. And one of the things you want to keep in mind with water bath canning is that is typically the method that you would use for high acid foods. Pressure canning would be used for low acid foods. Hence the reason why water bath canning, low acid foods is not recommended, because boiling water temperatures cannot get high enough to kill botulism spores, okay? You have to keep that in mind. However, pressure canning, reaching temperatures of up to 240, 250 degrees Fahrenheit, can kill botulism spores. And it's those temperatures for a certain amount of time that's needed in order to kill those spores. So we're going to get more into low acid and high acid foods later on in this series. Now, Mrs. H, how would I be able to tell if I have food in my jars that could possibly contain botulism? How would I know? Well, here's the thing about botulism. Number one, it doesn't have a smell. There's no odor. You can't look at it and see that it's visibly in the jar, right? It's not going to be all moldy looking. It doesn't even have a taste. So you won't be able to tell, right? But what about if I have jars where my lids have buckled, my food look all moldy and stuff like that? Well, those are telltale signs that there's something going on with your food, right? But there's a difference there. With botulism, there is no telltale signs. The only thing that you can do there is make sure that you properly can your foods. For example, if I'm canning meats, well, there's a foundation already set for canning meats, right? And it doesn't matter what kind of meat it is. If you're canning meat, you will process it in a pressure canner, and you will process it for a time recommended for safe canning. For example, if you were canning your meats in pint-sized jars, well, it would be 75 minutes. If you were canning your meats in quart-sized jars, well, it would be 90 minutes, right? That's the recommendation for safe canning. So if you decide to can your meats for 15 minutes, yes, you'll take it out of the canner, and yes, the jar will seal. But will that food be safe to eat? Absolutely not. Okay? So you have to follow the foundational guidelines that we have been given for home canning. I do. Now, yes, we do modify recipes quite a bit. And those of us who have been canning for a very long time, we create recipes that are tried and true for us. And we typically go with recipes that we know our elders have been canning a very long time, right? But that comes with more advanced canning. If you're new to canning, I'm going to tell you to follow the rules, okay? But there's one tip that I will give you that we always say in the home canning community. When in doubt, throw it out. Further along in this series, we're going to talk about proper storage of the jars of your canned foods, okay? But I'm going to share with you now how improperly stored foods and botulism relate to one another. Because if you store your foods improperly, let's just say you store them in a garage, right? A garage that is not climate controlled. So in the summertime, it's burning up, and in the wintertime, it's freezing. So if you have your jars stored under those kinds of conditions where the heat and the the cold and the heat is constantly fluctuating, eventually what could happen is your jars could break their seals. The lids could break the seal. And then, without you even knowing, the jar can reseal itself, right? As the temperatures fluctuate, the jars can literally reseal themselves. That lid will literally suck back down to the jar. And without you knowing, air has now entered into the jar. And oh my goodness, don't those botulism spores love those kind of conditions, right? So you want to make sure you're storing your jars under the proper conditions, because you do not want to give botulism an opportunity to grow inside of the food that you think is safe to eat. Remember, it doesn't smell. It doesn't look all funny and weird. It's not oozing out or nothing like that. There are no telltale signs. So this is another thing that you must keep in mind. You must store your jars of food properly. Botulism is a real concern. And the fear of botulism is what keeps so many people away from home canning, right? And yes, we must learn to respect the fact that botulism can be present. However, you all, home canning methods have been proven, tried and true for decades. It has an excellent track record, all right? So let's go ahead and talk about now some of the myths and the facts surrounding botulism. We're going to go over a few because we're hoping to do away with that fear of home canning because you don't want to poison your family, okay? So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the facts and the myths so we can get over it and we can start preserving our own food. You ready? Let's do it. Botulism is common in home canning. Myth. actually kind of rare. Most people practice safe home canning methods, and as a result, botulism is not very common at all. If a jar looks good, smells good, it's safe to eat. Fact: botulism has no smell, no taste, and it doesn't look a funny kind of way, right? So the best way to protect yourself against botulism is to properly can your food. Myth: adding vinegar or lemon juice will kill botulism spores. Fact: say what? No. Myth: botulism occurs in meat and meat alone. Fact: botulism occurs or can occur in all low acid foods. I pressure can my low acid foods for 30 minutes. The jar is sealed, so I know that they're perfectly fine. Fact: just because the jar is sealed don't mean they're safe to eat. Remember, everything has to come up to a certain amount of temperature for safe canning. So listen, you all, botulism myths is what creates panic and keeps so many people from learning the beautiful art of home canning. However, facts give you confidence, and it gives you the knowledge that you need to safely can your foods, okay? So remember, knowledge gives you confidence. It's the lack of knowledge that makes mistakes, okay? That causes you to make these mistakes. So remember, we're going to go with fact over myth. We're going to go with facts over fear concerning botulism, okay? So now, if you want to do more research behind botulism and home canning, please feel free to do so. Hopefully, I've given you a little bit of a foundation to really understand how botulism actually becomes a problem in home canning. So if you just follow safe canning practices, especially if you're new to home canning, just look, get yourself some good books, and we're going to go over that later on too, all right? But follow safe practices, and botulism will not be a concern for you, all right? So that's going to do it for the video. If you liked the video, I hope you liked the video. Give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. If you have not seen the other videos in this series of Home Canning 101, Getting Back to Basics, I will leave the entire playlist at the end of this video, okay? Thank you all for watching Homestead Heart. Peace and blessings to each and every one of you, and I will see you all in the next video.